Hello everyone and welcome back to another race of this second season in the Reddit League challenge that we've got for the Xbox division here. We are headed off to Bahrain for race 3 of the season. Now, we didn't have our usual TV camera operator going, so what you're going to get today is a monster mega multi-cut of onboard footage from all of the people that were streaming in the divisions for our run here this weekend. We are combining the two divisions again this week to kind of fill out the grid a little bit more. We had a few people absent, but the two divisions are still keeping their standings and scores separate. So I'll give you guys a rundown of how everybody's doing in the standings in just a moment. But we are going to head off to qualifying where we'll be able to jump from car to car and check out how everybody's doing in that regard. But it is the third race of the season here. And after a win in USA, MJ Povey has jumped himself up the grid a little bit in the Xbox division after missing the first race in Australia. Now, both divisions are also running a different level of points. The Division 1 is running the old school where you get 10 points for a win, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. So only the top 8 drivers are scoring points. We still have a fastest lap point, but Division 2's drivers are running with the current points format, 25, 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, I believe it is. Top 10 basically scores. But coming into this race here, Fast 6 driver is actually on top with 2 consecutive second place finishes. He will be P1 in the championship right now, but is going to be missing today's race in Bahrain, unfortunately. M. Denelson, who has changed his name to Kareem, you'll see him in that Ferrari still, is P2 in the championship as we're jumping on board with him right now on 13 points. MJ Povey, after that win, 10 points to his name, puts himself P3 in the championship. Now we've got Awakens, another one who's going to be missing out on today's race, and Gali Mooms tied 1 point back of MJ Povey on 9 points each. And we've got a 3-way tie between Habsfan Nick, Voki, Racer04 for that next spot there. So lots of tight fighting there. Onslaught has 3 points to his name. Quimbulus has 2, and QX Nemesis, who is joining us today, is had a DNF in the first race and was unable to attend the second race, so still on 0 points coming into that one. And then we have NGP Racer getting on the grid for the first time this season. A Division 1 driver last season, stays up in that division and is going to be kind of in and out throughout this season, so hopefully he can grab points while he is around, as you see Kareem just out there in the back doing his outlap. Now for Division 2 setup with the higher scoring point totals, you'll see we have WSGB up on 32 points, having taken the fastest laps at the first 2 races and put himself on the podium in the first race, and a solid haul of points for the second race. Alejandro Hayes is in P2 on 30 points, only 2 points back of WSGB. Chuck SRQ, having picked up a win last week for Division 2, is going to be tied with El Gloverino and MD the First, who also both have 25 points to their name. El Gloverino having picked up the win at Australia and is unfortunately missing from last week's race and this week's race. And then you've got MD the First, who has had a decent haul of points for both of his races. Behind him on 21 points is the Kel89, followed by AWD Turbo Guy, who is at 10 points. Calcurdo is on 8 points. He is unfortunately going to be missing from today's race. We've got Sam Beam on 4 points here after scoring at USA. It's Gibby and it's Baker, both on 0 points. Baker, unfortunately, has yet to finish a race through the first 2, and Gibby missed the first race and was a DNF in the second race of the season. But we're jumping on board now with QX Nemesis, as it looked like Kareem had an invalidation for his lap, so he is on his first flying lap of the session. We'll keep an eye on the top left timing charts there to see if anybody else is setting laps, but I believe this will probably be one of the first official flying laps to go on record. So I'm just come out of the tricky complex of turns 9 and 10, using all of the track as he can into turn 11. Now it's this flat uphill section. You want to avoid that curbing on the right-hander of turn 12 there. That is the death curb. You get on that, it really unsettles the car. You lose some of the car's ground effect, and it is an easy way to spin. But he's purple through the first couple of sectors here, as you would expect, being the first one setting a lap time. Down that bit of a straight into the final braking zone, and gets the wheel opened up nicely, and we'll see how he does crossing the line. That DRS open. Goes on a 26.136 to set his first time. Looks like Golly Moom's now right behind him on his flying lap, looking to set a time. Goes 26.442, so only 3/10 down. Now we'll jump on as we jump in, just as I was speaking of it, with NGP Racer, who hit that death curb. You see how that brought that car around. Luckily, very gentle touch on the wall there, so nothing wing damage for him, although that is going to cook that set of tires. Jump on with the Kel 89, the first man we're joining up from Division 2 in the Alfa Romeo. He's on a decent lap right now, coming in about the 21-second mark into the braking zone. He'll probably be around 27. Ooh, but he cuts that corner a little bit too tight, and that is going to invalidate that lap, so we'll see him dive into the pit lanes. What else we've got? We've got AWD Turbo Guy, who is sitting P7 at the moment. P8 as somebody else is setting some times there, and he's going to go on a 29.3, and that'll put him a good 9/10 off of Alejandro Hayes, a couple of spots up ahead of him. And Fairboy's off a couple of seconds off of Nemesis's time. So here we are, Habs fan Nick out on the medium compounded tires, trying to set a good lap time there. This is a track that if you start on the soft tires, it's a high enough degradation track that you're typically going to have to take a two-stop strategy. The medium tire is really your best opportunity for a one-stop strategy around here. So we will see some strategy variation, and hopefully we can get some mixing up of the pack there. But here we are, jumping on with Kareem on his out lap. There's some yellow flags just ahead. It looks like a couple of the Haas cars, one letting the other by on the mini map there, those two gray dots. We'll see if Kareem is going to catch that bunch up or if they'll let him through pretty easily. He can, at least at this stage, if he wants to, back off of his lap, although it does appear that that maroon dot of the Alfa Romeo of Habs fan Nick is coming through pretty quickly to set a lap time of his own. I actually misspoke and remembered that there was some issues with the lobby early on. The Kel 89 that you saw in the Alfa Romeo was actually not the Kel 89 that is in the Racing Point typically. That is actually Voki, the Division 1 driver. We had some issues loading into the first qualifying session. We changed hosts and reconnected, and it looks like that has caught a little bit of a bug for him. But here we are, Kareem now turning up that engine as he heads into the braking zone of the final corner to start off a flying lap here. He's yet to put up a lap time, so that's why it's showing him P13 at the moment. Using all that curbing on the exit there. Not necessarily the fastest way to get an exit there. That curbing is not particularly grippy when you're getting on the throttle, but we'll see if that ends up really costing many times. Probably a couple of hundredths at most is the big difference there. But coming through turns 1, 2, and 3, that is the big area we're going to gain and lose a lot of time as he's going by the Renault down into turn 4. Very bumpy entry. You see the car kind of hopping around. You really got to nail your line through there. Otherwise, you can slide and understeer off. He's set purple in that first sector so far. So he's got a good time going thus far. We'll see if any other lap times flash up on the screen. It's like the Mercedes of Wall Street is out of the way there to let him through, and there's a bit of a lockup into turn 10 there. Just such a tough braking zone, trying to turn the car and get on the brakes hard from pretty high speed for that tight left-hander. Into turn 11, looks like the other Mercedes has stopped completely to let him through and not hold him up there. Not bad to stay out of the dirty air, luckily. And really coming through the start of Sector 3, those turns of 11 and 12, dirty air is going to be a huge factor when following another car there, although you are setting yourself up for a long straight that we just got to the end of. Not a DRS straight, but it is a good passing opportunity because of the amount of slipstream you can get. But here he is coming across the line, puts himself just shy of a 10th behind QX Nemesis there for P2. And so now we are on board with Voki. I will correct myself this time. The Kel 89, the Division 2 driver, is in a Racing Point, so you'll know him when you see a pink car up on the screen there. But all in all, we had 11 of our 17 drivers with streams, so you'll see various changes in camera angle and stream quality, as I've had to pull all of those from online. So some people, depending on their processing bit rate, will have better and or worse quality overall, but we tried to bring you as many camera angles as possible since we were missing out on that one nice TV camera angle. So It is going to be a little bit more on board. You're going to see more of the how the drivers are working their cars. You'll see the difference in some of the cornering as he goes on a 1.3 seconds back of P3. So P5 on the medium tire, pretty good time for him. And jump on with Gali Mooms, who is on the soft tire. He's right now provisionally P3. It looks like he's about to set himself another lap there. But as I was saying, with these onboards, you're going to be able to watch the throttle and brake inputs. You'll be able to see the driver's steering angles and see the mixes and electrical deployments, front brake bias, all that stuff that typically is hidden from view. And now you will also be able to kind of tell who's running ABS and who's running traction control around, as you can kind of watch the throttle and brake inputs. If you see somebody really stomping on the throttle nice and early while the car is still in low gear, second and third gear, typically going to be somebody who's running a traction control setup. And then if you can really kind of hold the brake all the way into the corner, that is typically somebody who's going to be on the anti-lock braking system. We are running assists open in this league. The only assists that are not allowed are the pit entry assists, because it automatically slows the car down and makes it impossible for you to pick up a pit lane penalty. And as a result, around many tracks, it is a bit of an exploit, because you can just chuck the car at top speed onto the pit limiter and it slows it down instantly. And around certain tracks, it is worth a significant amount of time. So as a community, we've decided to ban the use of that particular one, but otherwise, we're pretty free to run assists and really let the driver's ability kind of take over to be on the pace. Your fastest guys are typically going to be running no assists or just a medium level of traction control. Gali with a fairly quick time, purple in the first and third sectors, but not able to do much on the second sector, lost in big time. And here comes Quimbulus accelerating. Ooh! Got too hard on the power out of the final corner, and that's his qualifying over. He had yet to set an official time, so he will be starting from the back row. He looked like he was about to go out on the medium tires for an alternate strategy. So that being said, he will have his free tire choice at the back of the grid, but definitely not where a Division 1 driver wants to be starting while on a mixed grid with all these Division 1 and Division 2 drivers in here. That's going to be a lot more lost places, but we are jumping on with QX Nemesis, who is sitting provisionally on pole at the moment. Only about 6.5 minutes left to go in this session. We'll see if he can improve on his time and make that pole position time just a little bit harder to reach. But here he is crossing start-finish line. We'll keep an eye on that delta in the top right there. Watch for it to turn green. Seem to have got a little better launch off of the final corner, a little earlier on the brakes. But you can gain a fair amount of time by being on the brakes a little earlier into turn one and carrying a little bit more speed on the exit there. The curving looks to have upset him just a little bit. You can see just a couple of thousandths up on his previous best time. The track, though, is starting to hit that stage where it will start to evolve a bit and gain a little bit more grip from the tires running around the track here, and the track rubbers in virtually. Really, the big change is around the 5-minute mark, where you'll get a significant improvement in overall grip. But he seems to be putting up a little bit of time. Ooh, a little bit deep into turn 10 there. Still holding in that green delta. Is improving on his lap time. So far on pace to be the first man into the 125s. But he's got to keep that delta up. Just again, a little bit too deep into the corners there is going to lose you a little bit of time if you're not getting all the way to the apex. He does set a purple sector too, although I believe he lost time on that split. So we might be seeing the bug that gives everybody purple sector 2s if they're putting up PBs, personal best. But here he's coming out of the final corner. A little bit of a good launch there, but he is going to improve by less than a tenth, stay in the 26s, but put it down to 26.0.
Good job.
Right now, P2 is Kareem, P3, Gali Mooms, and then you've got the medium tire runners of Racer 04, the two Renaults, Racer 04 and Onslaught out on the medium tires in P4 and 5. Here we are jumping on with Chuck SRQ in the Haas, sitting provisionally P13 at the moment, having set his previous best time on the medium tire. Actually, sorry, I believe this is actually AWD Turbo guy, sitting P14 at the moment. We have 16 drivers, I believe, on the grid today, and 2 of us have yet to set a lap time. Quimbulus, and I believe the Kel, with his connection issues in the Racing Point, has yet to set a lap time, but you'll see he's on the soft tire, trying to improve, get himself up the grid a little ways. Plenty of room to improve on that 129.3. I would assume a bobble somewhere in the middle of the lap has definitely hurt him. Gained a fair bit of time in the braking of turn 1 there, but has lost a little bit of it on the exit. He's going to hold fairly steady on the Delta at this point here, although not a bad start to the lap so far. It should be much better than a 129 if he can keep up this quality of the lap. There you see that Delta jumping up significantly, so it would appear the exit of those corners. Ooh, he's gotten a little bit wide through the hairpin there. That's going to cost him a significant amount of time here, and really keeping the lap clean is what's going to get you good lap times, but he is really struggling around that Delta mark at the moment. Still plenty of opportunity to improve. We'll see how he compares to Sam Beam, the next man up on his chart as we cross the Sector 2 split, but just seems to be pushing the car a little too far. Ooh, onto the turn 12 curb, and that will do it. That will put him right in the wall. You see just how much it snaps, and he will start towards the back of the field. So here we are on with Voki, not the Kel, and he is showing a pretty good improvement over his 127.7, already almost 7/10 up on the exit of turn 10 there. So only a few more real braking zones to contend with through this lap. They're one of the trickier ones. Not the trickiest, because turn 9 and 10 absolutely takes the cake here, but taking this braking zone into turn 13, you're downhill, you're kind of trying to brake and turn at the same time. It's a tough one, and he's run just a little wide on the exit, and that is unfortunately going to invalidate his lap time, and he's not going to be able to set a new one. So here we are on with NGP Racer, who is P17 at the moment, has yet to set his lap time out on the soft tires. Looks like because he does have a Delta running, that means he's had a lap completed, but it was invalidated. So that is why he is showing as P17. He does not have an official lap, but he does have a Delta to challenge against. And we'll have to see what that lap time looks like as he finishes up the lap. It would be nice for it to show us what that lap time is, to see what kind of pace he's on and what kind of position on the grid he's looking to put himself on. Ooh, back end got away from him. He's able to keep that one alive that time though, but that is a pretty significant amount of time lost. However, the lap is not invalidated just yet. He has managed to keep that lap alive, but very rare that somebody touches turn 12 like that and gets away with it, but he did quite well to save the car from that big snap. So he's going to cross the line 27.8. That'll put him up into P10 provisionally. Now, with only 45 seconds left in the qualifying session, we've got 4 drivers starting their last attacks at final lap. QX Nemesis, Kareem, Gallimooms, and Habs Fan Nick. All pretty quick drivers. Habs Fan Nick putting himself in the top 5 for a couple of qualifying sessions. Sort of out of place at the moment in P12. And you've got QX Nemesis provisionally on pole, Kareem P2, and Gallimooms in P3 provisionally at the moment. But right now it looks like Kareem has gone purple in the first sector. Well, QX Nemesis has taken that purple first sector away from him. He's gone much quicker than his pole time at the moment. And then we're going to see Gallimooms is the furthest along the track. No, he's not. He's just behind Kareem. So Kareem exiting turn 10, and then now Gali coming out of turn 10. Nemesis coming out of turn 10, all quick in a line. So many cars trying to set this last time and give you this special quad boxes. There's a lot of action out. We'll see Marco goes purple into the second sector there. Will Nemesis be able to take it? Ooh, Kareem's run a little bit wide on the exit there, and that is going to invalidate that lap time. He is going to be unable to improve. But it looks like Nemesis is improving significantly, 3/10 up on his best lap. Gallimooms coming out of the final corner is 1.17 seconds up on his best lap. That's going to be enough for him to jump Kareem up into P2. And Nemesis goes into the 25s significantly, goes to a 25.6 to go onto provisional P1. So the rundown of the grid now here is going to be QX Nemesis and Gollymooms 5 sharing the front row of the grid. Kareem and Racer04, P2. The Renault of Onslaught sharing this third row with Habs fan Nick, MJ Povey, P7, Chuck SRQ, P8, Wall Street, P9, Alejandro Hayes, P10, Voki, P11, NGP Racer, P12, Baker and Sambeam holding down that 7th row. Then you've got AWD Turbo Guy, the last to set a time in P15, and then you've got Quimulus and the Kel with no valid times. The Kel having issues with connection, hopefully able to get all connected up before the race start, and then Quimulus crashing out, so they will make the last 2 spots on the grid there. We should have 17 cars going around, at least at the start of this one. Bahrain has always proved to be a fairly tasty start. It's a decent run down into turn 1, especially for the back of the grid, and it's a very, very tight hairpin to open up the lap. It is a pretty wide entry into turn 1, and then it tightens up quite a bit as you head towards turn 2 and 3. So we'll see if everybody can sort themselves out or if there will be some mayhem for people to manage. But we're just kind of waiting for the timer to run down and the last few cars to either get into the pits or the last few people to retire on it. And then we'll be able to move on. But we are checking out the Ferrari of Kareem 266 now. Changed his name there, but same driver, same quickness. One of the drivers to change teams this season, going from the Red Bull last season up into the Ferrari. QX Nemesis leaving that seat in Ferrari for the Renault-powered McLaren, and actually kept his same teammate, both of the Ferrari drivers last season. Nemesis and NGP Racer both going to the McLaren, citing with the equal cars that we drive, liking the engine noise a lot better from that Renault power unit over the Ferrari. But there he is, QX Nemesis in that bright orange McLaren, the Papaya Racer there, P1, and Kareem P3. Gollymooms stayed in his Red Bull from last season, but picked up a new teammate, Awakens, who is unfortunately going to be missing from today's race. But here we are, jumping out to the formation lap. We did have some more connection issues between qualifying and the race, so we had to reform and get everybody loaded into the correct setup, correct tires. So unfortunately, the top 10 will be starting on a set of fresh tires as opposed to having to take their worn qualifying tires in, but everybody should be on the correct tires at this point. If they're on the wrong tires, then somebody's probably going to have to pay for a bit of a penalty. But that should allow the soft tire runners at the front of the grid here to run just that little bit longer, because obviously 1 lap of quali pushing is going to take out quite a bit more life than 1 lap at race pace. Running down, we are down to Onslaught, who is on the soft tires. Racer04 on the medium tires just ahead there, able to qualify through. Got Habs fan Nick just behind in the Alfa Romeo. He is on a set of soft compound tires there. So far, mostly soft tires up at the front, but a bit of a mix as now we are about to head down to P7. MJ Povey, who's in his menu for some reason or another. But he is on the medium compound tires. I probably gave up a little bit of qualifying pace in order to go with a different strategy. Chuck SRQ on the medium tires at the moment. You'll see Wall Street in P9 behind him on medium tires as well. And Alejandro Hayes on rounding out the top 10 on the soft compound tire. But Voki on the mediums. NGP Racer in the McLaren on the mediums as well. It's Baker in the Alpha Tauri is on softs. Sambeam in the other Mercedes is on softs. AWD Turbo Guy is on mediums, having to take some evasive action as everything kind of checked up. Same with Quimulus on the mediums there. And the Kel is on softs, and a little bit of contact between the Kel and Quimulus is going to teleport them to the front of the grid here, or rather just straight to their grid boxes. So that is going to lose them a bit of tire temperature on the rears. I do believe that the burnouts that you do leading up to the grid, or rather that the game does, actually puts a little bit of temperature into the tires like a real car does. And it may, having the slightly colder tires might hurt their getaway. But now we've got the lights coming up. 3, 4, 5 red lights up on the screen. We're going to jump back to MJ Povey on the mediums, and he gets a pretty good reaction, slotting in between Onslaught and Habs fan Nick. Has a good run down, looking inside of Racer 04 into turn 1, but side by side has to take a lot of curb to avoid some action. Is slotted back in, but we got AWD Turbo Guy wide, the Kel 89 going through, and we've got Quimulus and Sam Beam right behind him there, so coming down. Yellow flags at the moment. Quimulus getting late on the brakes into turn 4 there, having to wait for that yellow flag zone to clear, not able to overtake, but AWD Turbo Guy has had a few cars go by and has, looks like the Mercedes of both Wall Street and Sam Beam have gone backwards at the start here, as you see the width of everybody into the hairpin just kind of getting sorted out at this early stage of the race. 29 laps here around Bahrain, a 50% distance race. But you can see just as everybody's kind of starting to find a little bit of a tunnel, but ooh, here comes the Kel down the inside of NGP Racer. Oh, and they touch, and that's going to turn the Kel around, and oh, he gets collected. And that is a DNF for him. Unfortunate, as he is just returning to the grid. It was AWD Turbo Guy that got into the side of him. Severe wing damage for Turbo Guy, but lucky to not also have suspension damage. Such a shame for NGP Racer finally coming back onto the grid and getting taken out by that touch there. So the virtual safety car is out. Everybody's got to manage the delta pace, keep that in the green, or else if you are in the red when the safety car ends, or if you're in the red for too long, for going too fast, you will pick up a drive-through penalty. You can see that warning coming up. Reduce that pace, get that delta back down. But Nemesis got off to a good start, and yeah, here we go. We've got AWD Turbo Guy diving into the pit lanes. It looks like both Mercedes are coming in. That's going to hurt one of them as they're waiting for that double stack to complete, because I think there's wing damage on one of them, so one's moving. Here goes the other pulling in. We're green flag racing once again. So new front wing going on, and he's going on to the medium tires, so he should be able to stop the rest of the way. Hopefully, to go on to mediums or hards. He may have to take a couple extra stops, but here we are, jumping ahead with Voki on those medium tires, keeping good pace with Onslaught in front of him on those softs. Has a good run down to turn 9. He's going to ride that curb, hold the inside line there. What a clean move there. Has to get on the throttle, a little bit of wheel spin. Luckily, no DRS yet, but he's got to use a lot of that electrical energy, and it's Baker has retired from the section. Unfortunate for him as well. He is retired from each session so far this season. The first 3 races, he has yet to make the checkered flag. Hopefully his fortunes will turn around for him later on in this season, coming up Canada next. But here is now the other Alfa Romeo of Habs fan Nick. Voki snuck his way past Onslaught on the mediums. Now Habs fan Nick, no DRS available yet, but running that overtake mode, rich mix on the fuel. See if he can grab some slipstream and make a move into turn 1. He's got a little bit of a look to the inside. He's just going to kind of settle in and save it for the next lap. Now that VSC is going to not affect the return of DRS the way a regular safety car does. But here's MJ Povey now, DRS wide open, overtake, and just as I was saying, he's down the inside, but ooh, Racer is hanging out around the outside. A little bit of a touch, oh, but they look to be both still driving, but ooh, they just barely come together a little bit on the exit of turn 4 there, but it looks like Povey is able to finally get that move completed and is starting to move his way up to chase down Gali Mooms for the podium positions. Having started P7, got that blinder of a start, and is up now into P4 on just lap 3 of this race. Now it's just going to be a matter of closing up the gap to these quick runners. He should also start to gain some lap time on the guys in front of him because of that tire differential as the soft tires start to wear off. But ooh, Voki getting a little bit sideways on the power coming out of turn 11 there, having a little look to try and get by Racer. Racer's a little wide on the exit. Is Voki going to have the power to boost down that back straight Now he's keeping it in the rich mix, but not using that overtake mode. He is well within the DRS range, though, of Racer 04. And Racer, I believe, is just outside of Povy's range, so he is not able to get that DRS help. But you turn up that overtake mode, turn up that fuel mixture, you can really defend a fair bit if you've got a low enough downforce set, even on somebody with DRS. And you can see how much Voki's able to close up. But Racer 04, ooh, deep into the braking zone. Ooh. And that's not going to be enough, but here's Voki pushing. Ooh, he's got the back end a little bit loose, trying to save it. But oh, that is going to be the end of his race as he is in the barriers. The curbing really reaching out and biting Voki, really throwing that car all around. Now another virtual safety car is out as Chuck is right behind the Kel 89. Now as much as you want to in VSCs run that delta as close to zero as possible, you can't overtake the car in front of you. You are kind of at the mercy. So even though the delta is now about 1.5 seconds for these guys, it is not going to be enough for Chuck to make his way through. Here we are with Nemesis up at the front of the field, still maintaining a nice 4-second gap out there from Kareem. Got to slow down, or otherwise he might pick up a penalty, and he's really skirting that line a little bit close. If the virtual safety car ends now, he could really be in danger of picking up a penalty by skirting that line so closely. VSC is ending. It is on the way, but you have to wait all the way till it says return to racing, and ooh, it went return to racing, and he was in the red, and that's going to be a drive-through penalty. So here he is diving straight into the pit lanes to serve that right away. Looks like he may have gone in a little bit hot. We'll see if he has to make a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane there, but that's going to promote Kareem up to the lead. Gali moves to P2, and MJ Povey on those medium tires up into P3. Only 5 laps into this race so far, and a lot of action thus far. A lot of cars getting out of sorts on the curbing. It is very much a circuit where you can spin the rear tires up just a little bit too much and you get the back end a little bit wild. And unfortunately, it's already reached out and bitten a couple of drivers. We're down to just 14 on the grid at the moment after starting with 17. So we've had 3 DNFs in the first 5 laps so far and 2 virtual safety cars. No full safety cars to remove the wreckage thus far. So that's at least allowed for a smooth flow to the racing and not bunching up the field for a full-on safety car restart. But Kareem's now got about a 3.3 second lead out in the front of the field here in that Scarlet Ferrari with those matching red soft tires. And we'll have to keep an eye as now Onslaught and Habs fan Nick have a bit of a battle developing, but we'll see. They're both on the same tire compound. We'll have to see when the switchover for lap times really starts to be where the mediums come into their own and the softs start to fall off. But Onslaught and Habs fan Nick definitely in quite a scrap right now, both in Division 1 and on those soft compound of tires. He's staying within that DRS range. He's definitely just got to make a good run out of this last corner to be able to open up that DRS and attack. Looks like he is not using the overtake mode just yet. He may not feel he needs it, so we'll jump on with Chuck SRQ, who is closing quickly on the Kel 89. And onto the brakes, just not quite enough to make a lunge, but ooh, the Kel 89 getting the back end way too early on the power. That you see just the way the rear end can step out if you're too aggressive on the throttle. That's going to let Chuck go through now. Was that a mistake, or is it a combination of that plus the wear on those soft tires? Lap 6 is definitely starting to feel a little bit of pain on those soft tires, especially if he's been lighting up those rears a little bit too much. But now we're on with Quimbulus in the Williams, having worked his way from the back of the grid here all the way now up into P8. So he's gone up good 8 positions already since he started P16. Although the Kel 89 started right behind him in P17, so he's gone up 10 positions. Although now the Kel a little bit wide on that exit, and Quimbulus with the DRS, with the rich fuel mix, and with the overtake active is going to hold the inside line of the track there and shut the door on the exit. And that should allow him to secure that position as the Kel seems to really be struggling with his tires. And now he's got to deal with the dirty air. You see just how wide he runs on the exit there in that rear view mirror. That's another thing you'll notice as we jump from onboard to onboard. Some drivers running with the rear view mirrors, others without the virtual rear view mirror. Just kind of an extra bit of situational awareness that some people want. It may be a little bit of a distraction for others and just kind of want to rely on the red arrows. But this time Onslaught's got a pretty good run up on Habsfan Nick using that rich mix, but again, just not quite close enough to have a lunge, although Nick, a little bit of a lockup into turn 1 there. That made Onslaught get a little bit out of the throttle there and has opened up just a teeny bit of a gap once again, but these two are definitely trying to scrap their way. P4 and P5, although if you look at the result that this fight has had between them, MJ Povey now 9 seconds almost up the road from them up in P3. So the lead pack is starting to definitely break away from this this battle that's going on. And we'll keep an eye on the split there as Chuck is about 4 seconds back right now with Quimbulus right behind him. So we'll see if he's able to close up on this pack, as it looks like on the mini-map there you see them diving through turn 10 right behind. So we'll see if they're able to reel that in or if Quimbulus is going to have a chance to attack Chuck coming up soon, as he is only about a half second back on that delta if you're looking there. 4.6 Chuck is behind Onslaught and Quimbulus only 5.1 back. So that could turn into a bit of a battle coming up very soon here, especially with these two on the soft tires kind of starting to fall back towards the two on the medium tires. Now, as far as a two-stop strategy goes, we should see some of the soft tire runners that are doing a two-stop strategy start coming in around lap 8 or 9. So you can see that pit window actually opening up for Onslaught here. It says he's going for a two-stop, grabs that slipstream. He's going to try and go the long way around the outside. Habsfan Nick gets the apex first, going for that little switchback, although Habsfan Nick has kind of parked his car in a great position. Although now, once again, Onslaught trying to go around the outside. That DRS open, and here we are jumping to Habsfan Nick as they're still side by side coming to these S's. See, he's got the tire wear graphic up, and Onslaught diving it up the inside, and it looks like he's got that job done. But you see on those soft tires already over 50% wear on that front left, and he's going to fight him back as Onslaught has run wide through turn 8. And that is going to let Nick get right back through. So this scrap back and forth over and over between these two drivers. I don't expect that we'll see this one end anytime soon. Now you see, it looks like Quimbulus has made his way past Chuck. I believe Chuck has dived into the pit lane there, but Quimbulus only 2.4 seconds back of this battle now, and MJ Povey 11.2 seconds up the road. So definitely starting to get Quimbulus involved in that battle, having come from the back of the grid. But here is Gollymooms diving into the pit lane to get off of these soft tires. Looks like he's going onto the medium compound, so he will be committing himself to a two-stop strategy. Going 20 laps on those medium tires is quite a big ask, I will say. It is a lot, but it looks like Nick and Habsfan Nick and Onslaught both diving into the pits as well. And Quimbulus and Chuck go by, so it looks like Quimbulus has made his way past Chuck just purely on track.
One stop to go, one stop left in this strategy.
Here's Golly coming out of the pit lane, P5, so a good first stint for him. And you see Onslaught and Habsfan Nick as they head towards the pit exit, ready to resume their battle. Kind of like waiting for the race shield doors to open up and continue the lightsaber battle against Darth Maul in episode 1 as they were rolling to the exit of the pit lane. They both wanted to get back on with it and had to wait and wait, but here is Onslaught, a really good run down to turn 4. Back end getting a little bit loose, and Habsfan Nick swinging a little bit across the nose. Getting a little bit feisty, still within fair play as Nemesis sets the fastest lap. He had some penalties to serve, so he is fairly out of position towards the bottom of the grid. I would assume he's going to be racing for quick laps to try and salvage just some points at the end here, not necessarily going to get himself back in contention for the win. You see they've come out about 9 seconds clear of the Kel, and Sam Beam is still in P7 and P8, so not a huge amount of time lost on the pit stop for these two as well. But you can see they're going to fight it out for quite some time, and up front it's basically holding steady. You've got now MJ Povey has moved himself up into P2. We'll have to see when Kareem comes into the pit lanes. and relinquishes that lead to get off of the set of soft tires he stopped on. Has shown a pretty good job managing tires throughout the start of this season so far, so he's been able to stretch a few stints early on, so I would expect he does the same here in Bahrain. But the DRS Open coming up to the braking zone, just still not quite enough to make a lunge on Nick there. So one more time down that long DRS straight, and one more time just kind of holding position back and forth in the midfield pack, P8. We'll have to keep an eye on, I believe Chuck SRQ right now is the Division 2 leader at the moment in this race, kind of mixing it in with the Division 1 drivers here. And yeah, here we are with Chuck. He is P4 overall, and since he is behind 3 Division 1 drivers, that will put him into the Division 2 lead at the moment. So we'll see if he's able to continue to keep that up. It looks like even though Quimbulas has made his way past Chuck earlier on, a few laps ago, he has not been able to drop Chuck just yet. He's still inside that DRS zone, although I believe it looks like Chuck has been burning quite a bit of battery to stay there. Although if you're at the cost of that bit of battery to stay in that DRS zone, that DRS is a significant gain. It'll probably gain you about a half a second or so of a lap time on just this front straight alone by having that open. Chuck is out here setting personal bests in order to keep up with the Williams of Quimbulas in front of him. And another thing to keep an eye on is that delta of Gali Mooms in P5. He is on the same compound on that medium tire, but on a fresh set. Quimbulas and Chuck have been on this set since the very start of the race, whereas Gali Mooms has just fitted those just a lap or so ago, so we should see him close up to this fight rather quickly and get involved here as well, as Chuck still staying within just close to that 1 second mark. Is going to be a matter of, getting out on that curbing might have cost him an opportunity at going through the DRS detection zone. Yeah, he's just outside that 1 second there now. And it might be the opportunity that Quimbulas needs to actually open up this gap from Chuck here. And here we are jumping on with the race leader of Kareem, still on that starting set of soft tires. 11 laps into this race, and it is now time for him. He is going to duck into the pit lane. Had a good 5-second lead out in front and 20 seconds clear of Quimbulas and Chuck out in P3, although you're going to lose probably about 23 to 24 seconds on your pit stops here, because there's not really any corners that you're skipping. It's just purely down the straight line. So you can see in the mini-map, Quimbulas just crossing the start-finish line as Kareem creeping towards that pit exit, and now he's able to get the throttle down. You see Quimbulas go through, you see Chuck going through down into turn 1. Now this might be a situation that could cost Kareem some of his lap time. He's on a fresh set of tires, but he's coming out just behind a couple of cars that are on the same compound but a worn set. So through this middle section of the track where there's not really a lot of overtaking opportunity, he's going to have to kind of sit down and wait for an overtaking opportunity, and that's going to cost him a fair bit of lap time. We'll have to keep an eye on his personal best deltas to see, although if that is the case, it is going to allow him to save a bit of fuel to deploy later on in the race here. But you can see he's in the DRS zone of Chuck. Is he going to get enough of a drive off of that corner in order to make a move down into turn 11? Braking zone is coming up rather quickly, not able to quite closely get up in there, so that is going to be a little bit of extra time, although Chuck runs a little wide there, comes back across the track. And that's going to cause Kareem to catch some dirty air. You see it cause him to run a little bit wide, although you see Chuck struggling in that braking zone on those worn tires. Kareem turning up the engines up to Rich. Now going to have a little peel out, dive into the braking zone of the final corner. And that's going to get that one mostly done. He was behind at the DRS detection point, so he is going to grab that DRS, and that is not going to let Chuck fight back. MJ Povey into the pit lane onto a set of hard compound tires. So he's taking those mediums onto hards, going with that one-stop strategy, and that is going to put Quimbulas up into the lead of this race after having started in the bottom 2 positions there after crashing out at qualifying. Still on his opening stint of tires though, so he's going to have to fall back through the field just a little bit. Chuck has committed to a two-stop strategy thus far, so he will, or rather not, he's on the mediums on his opening stint as well. So we'll see what he goes on to when they dive into the pit lanes. I would assume that Quimbulas is going to go ahead and take those mediums a couple of more laps and then dive into the pits to grab a set of hards to go to the end of the race here. Although with MJ Povey only 5.8 seconds down the road, this could be an opportunity for the Williams to play a bit of a team game there. Quimbulas staying out longer, trying to stay in front of Kareem as much as possible and allow Povey to try and reel in that gap just a little bit. Now with Kareem stretching those soft tires 11 laps on the start, I'm not sure if he's going to actually be able to go for a two-stop or a one-stop. He may be able to nurse the medium tires long enough to get to the end of the race, although they will probably be losing a fair bit of performance at this stage. Although here is Kareem with a good exit off the final corner. DRS, rich mix, overtake mode, slipstream, should be able to get this job done nice and easily. Tire advantage just too much on the exit, getting that traction down, and that is going to move Quimbulas down into P2. So here we are on with AWD Turbo Guys, second to last running right now, about 4 seconds ahead of Wall Street and about 4 seconds behind the other Mercedes of Sam Beam. He was caught in the first lap incident with NGP Racer and took some wing damage, had to dive in, so that's kind of hampered his race. Here's Racer 04 onto a set of hard compound tires with QX Nemesis coming down the straight there. It looks like the Kell has gone through on his mediums, although Racer 04 should be able to go to the end of this race here. He is P9 overall, so quite well into the overall points, or slot into overall points. We'll see how he does compared to the other Division 1 standings. It would appear the Division 1, aside from Chuck, has a pretty significant hold on the top positions. So you've got Kareem out front, you've got Gallymoons, Quimbulas, MJ Povey, Onslaught, Habs Van Nick, Chuck SRQ, and the Kell holding P7 and 8 as the first two in the Division 2 drivers. As we come towards the tail end of lap 14 here, about the halfway point of this, is on Habs Van Nick grabbing a little bit of extra brake there. And here comes Quimbulas into the pit lane. Kareem is through, Gallymoons goes through, and his teammate MJ Povey goes past. So we'll see as he dives in to grab a new set of tires, what kind of tires he is going onto, and it is the white-walled hard tires. So he should be going to the end of the race on these ones. So far, fairly good results on the alternate strategy, working his way from the back of the field. He's going to come out of the pit lane, just a couple of seconds up the road from Chuck SRQ, so they're both on the same tires, and Quimbulas only a couple of laps younger at this stage, P6, and he's got Onslaught and Habs Van Nick, who are fighting away on soft compound tires, so they will move out, so he is essentially a net P4 at the moment in that race. But here are the podium positions. We got Kareem out front on those medium tires, might be making another stop, might be trying to go to the end. It's really going to depend on how hard he's going to drive these tires at this point in the stint. Gallymoons on that medium compound tires, certainly going for two-stop. He came in quite a few laps earlier than Kareem did on those soft tires. And MJ Povey, who is definitely on the one-stop strategy, going from that medium to that hard compounded tire. Now Racer 04, after coming out of the pit lanes, is on those hard compounded tires. The Kell running wide on that turn 10 exit again, and that's going to let Racer 04 cruise right on through DRS. Not too much of a fight on that one. You get onto that exit curbing of turn 10, you really lose a ton of traction. It's extremely slick, so it's almost impossible to accelerate on. So that was going to be a pretty tall order to fight back there, although if he can manage to recover a bit and stay within 1 second coming down this back straight, he should be able to make a move. But here's Habs Van Nick diving into the pit lanes, getting off those soft tires already. Wonder if he's worn those out and pushed them a little bit hard. That's the medium tire going on for him, so 13 laps to get to the end. Should have life enough to do that one. So he is dropping down the order. P9, QX Nemesis right behind him, holding the fastest lap, making another pit stop. It looks like he's got another penalty to serve as well. Is it going to be a stop-go? It looks like just a 5-second time penalty, so it does look like he has picked up that 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane that we posited earlier. It's about a 7.2 stop instead of the usual 2.6 to 2.8. It will cost him a bit of track time, although this point is just a drive to recover. AWD Turbo Guy into the pit lanes, going on to the hard tires. Interesting to see, although a little bit of a weird strategy call had to be made after that first lap incident. But he is P14 at the moment, last man running, but he's about 20 seconds off of Wall Street, who is also on a hard tire to go to the end, and just getting a little bit too feisty on the throttle there. So AWD Turbo Guy unfortunately caught up in the early incidents, might be relegated to a fairly lonely rest of the day. But here comes Kareem coming down into turn 4. I believe that is AWD Turbo Guy just in front of him to be put a lap down. Kareem still holding about a 5.6 second gap and about 8.2 seconds on MJ Povey. We were definitely expecting that gap to improve a fair bit when he came out of the pit lanes over Povey, especially, who is probably the main competitor. Gollymoons is going to have to make that second stop and will fall just behind MJ Povey. Should be clear of Quimbulas, though, coming out of the pits. And Onslaught, still in P4 at the moment, has to make another stop. So he will drop his way down. So your effective runners on track are Kareem. MJ Povey is a net P2, essentially. Gollymoons P3 and Quimbulas P4. So unless Quimbulas can bang in some pretty quick laps before Gollymoon makes his pit stop and get into that pit stop window, it is going to be quite a tall order for Quimbulas to take a podium spot. But here we are with Gollymoons 5. Coming into the final corner here. A little bit of understeer coming in, so it may be time for him to grab a new set of tires coming up soon. We'll see what tire strategy he is going to be going on to at the end of the race. If he goes another lap or so, he should be able to have plenty of margin to actually put on a set of soft tires and go to the end and have a really good pace over that final 10 laps. Now, you would probably get only about 8 laps or so on the soft tire at the start of the race, but once that fuel load is burned off, you can really run them a little bit longer. You see MJ Povey closing up to about 2 seconds, and here comes Onslaught into the pit lane. So Quimbulas has gone through, Chuck has gone through, and he should drop out somewhere around where Habs fan Nick is as Race 04 goes by the Kel 89. You see just going by that pink dot on the screen, and it looks like we might have more of a fight still on our hands. But here we are, jumping with Quimbulas here, just kind of running those hard tires through 21 seconds off of MJ Povey. So with only 11 laps left to go in this race, probably going to be out of the podium positions unless he can really catch up, like I said, with Gollymoon. But here's QX Nemesis closing up on Wall Street here. You're gonna have a look to the inside, showing that difference between Division 1 and Division 2 braking bravery. How much later you go when you get quicker. I mean, QX Nemesis, one of the fastest guys in the entire Xbox divisions, bar none, is the defending champion from last season. So definitely a very, very quick driver, showing some of the Division 2 what's what. But here we are with Onslaught, less than a second behind Habs fan Nick. So from the onset of this race, they have been trading positions back and forth. More often than not, Habs fan Nick just ahead of Onslaught. I think if he would be able to break out of that DRS zone, he might be able to gap him just a little bit, but Onslaught doing well to stay near enough to get that DRS benefit and keep Habs fan Nick having to work hard to defend, to not make any mistakes, to open the door for Onslaught. He is late on the brakes, a little bit deep into the corner, having to kind of take avoiding action. A little bit of smoke from a tiny bit of a lockup there. Although he had a bit of a thought. He had a wild hair up his nose, but now he's having a little look to the inside, switches it outside. He is trying to just find any way to get past all, and Habs fan Nick is doing well to just keep it on the racing line. No aggressive defense maneuvers here and there. He is just trying to turn in good laps out in front of Onslaught. And really, when the car behind is hanging out about, a half second to 6/10 behind you don't really want to be doing too much defense movement. You want to just try and be turning as good a laps as possible. Now, if that car behind closes up to within that 3/4 range, that's when you really start to lose out on your lap time, because you've got to make a defensive move. You've got to cover the inside, but it is just kind of flirting between that 4/10 to 6/10 this fight. So we'll see how that develops over the final 10 laps of this race. Both of these guys on tires that are going to the end of the race. You can see just how much battery Onslaught is using to keep in touching distance of Habs fan Nick. And they're fairly isolated at this stage of the race, about 10 seconds back of Racer 04, about 17 seconds ahead of the Kel 89. And everybody should have pretty much made their final pit stops of the race, but they can just kind of fight away. They aren't going to give up too much time to the cars behind, but any hope they have of really reeling in the cars in front on this set of medium compound tires, not really going to happen. Now you see Nick having to go to the inside defensive. Onslaught trying to go with that cutback to get that traction down early, go with that late apex, but not enough to really slingshot through. And now the tough part, following through that quick set of S's in that dirty air, really causes the car to understeer quite a lot. It's very hard to keep it from sliding off the track there, but he did well to stay nice and tight to that racing line. And another opportunity as he's closing right up on the gearbox, although Habs fan Nick a little slower on the apex, has to make Onslaught check up and is a little bit slower getting on the power, so that's going to allow him to zoom out. But here we go. Gallimum's finally diving into the pits. Definitely pushed it long enough, has only 8 laps left to go. He's on a set of soft compound tires. We'll see if that hard compound tire that Quimulus is on the in the Williams is going to get close. But here we are, jumping on board with Quimulus as Gallimum's is rolling towards the pit exit. He's up to speed there coming out, and Quimulus not quite close enough to attack. He actually goes way deep. A little distracted, I would say, on the braking zones there, but Gallimum's able to come out just ahead of Quimulus by less than a second. And on those fresh soft compound tires, should be able to fairly easily open that gap up from Quimulus, who is on those older hard compound tires. Now here's QX Nemesis tucked up behind the Kel 89 with that DRS enabled. In lean mix now, so he's trying to just save some fuel. I would guess probably going to try and save some fuel and battery and put in an even faster lap to try and secure that point comfortably. Could be at risk of Gallimum's taking it away from him as he is on a set of fresh soft tires. So should have a couple of laps for him to charge up and make a high battery attempt. So here we are back with Onslaught, and a red X on Habs fan Nick. That's connection issues. He looks like he's been disconnected, and unfortunately this epic battle that's gone the whole race is now in the control of the AI. And the AI is not as good of a driver as Habs fan Nick is. So unfortunately, the thrilling conclusion of this race-long battle is Habs fan Nick has internet problems and gets dropped from the race, and that's a bummer. It was a real good battle shaping up between those two, so now Onslaught should be able to quite easily, you can see already open up 1.7 seconds, pull away pretty easily and not be in danger anymore, although the fighting that they had has cost them quite a bit of time to Racer 04, who's now almost 12 seconds up the road on that set of hard compound tires. So that will be likely a solid 7th place overall for Onslaught in this one. See as that AI is falling back, Nemesis is closing up. We'll jump on with MJ Povey here. He is 10.4 seconds back of Kareem, who is still out on that set of medium tires. So at this stage, it's almost certain that Kareem is going to the end of the race on those medium tires. Taking a pit stop now would just not leave him enough time to really catch back up and take the position away. So he's just going to have to nurse those tires to the end. This might be an opportunity for Povey to close it up, although may not have done enough earlier on to close that gap up quite enough, but after a blinding start from P7, has gotten himself up to P2 on that one-stop strategy, the mediums onto hards, using the slower compounds. Slower but safer compounds around, has done well. Gally Mooms on a two-stop strategy now up in P3. Should have plenty of pace to maintain that P3 position. He's already gained about 5 seconds on Quimulus, although he probably won't have quite enough time to reel in MJ Povey, who is 17 seconds up the road there. But Quimulus right now in P4 after starting in P16 towards the back of the field there, has done quite well on his medium to hard strategy.
Gap to teammate
now, the racing isn't quite done. We do have Racer 04 who is closing up into the range of Chuck SRQ now. Chuck SRQ on that hard compounded tire, with Racer 04 also on that hard compounded tire. I believe Chuck came in a few laps earlier than Racer 04. We'll have to see if he is able to convert that advantage into another position late in the race here. Now, for Chuck, it isn't going to matter that much because it is would still be leading the Division 2 race essentially. Although, if the races continue to be combined races for the rest of the season, we may just have a combined standings overall, and we will have to sort out Australia's results. But otherwise, the other 2 races so far this season have been combined, so we may have the Division 2 being absorbed into Division 1, in which case this result could make a difference to him. Racer 04 burning a lot of that energy, and it looks like Nemesis has made his way up into P8, has about 9 or 11 seconds to catch up to Onslaught there, so probably going to be a little bit out of the realm of possibility there. But here's with the DRS. He's got plenty of extra fuel, could probably use that on there. He sets a personal best here on lap 24 and has a little look down into the braking zone late. Gets to the apex and hugs it nicely. Doesn't go too deep. Plants his car excellently on the exit of turn 2. Was behind at the detection point into the braking zone, so he is able to use that DRS to open up a little bit more of a gap, and Chuck not fighting that one too hard. He definitely could have moved to a defensive point of the line, but Racer 04 showing once again excellent braking into turn 1 and really just out battling the car alongside on the same compounded tire there. So very good move from Racer 04. Now, does Chuck have an answer in the last 5 laps of this race here? Another thing we'll have to keep an eye on for at the end of the race is going to be... Ooh, and there's a virtual safety car. Looks like QX Nemesis out of the session here. That's what it said. So his car probably pulling off to the side of the road, stricken somewhere. Maybe. See if we can find it. But here we are down the field. Kareem just with a couple of back markers in his rear view mirror just made his way past Kel 89, and then also past, I believe that is Habs fan Nick. The virtual Habs fan Nick, that is, unfortunately no longer in this race. He's closing up on Wall Street, just close to making another car go a lap down. So blue flags are going to be out for Wall Street, as Karina is still holding about that 10.5 second gap out front. So has good control of the race so far, and his medium tires, I'm sure, are not particularly happy at this stage of the race, but should have enough life to go to the end. But I'll have to see if anybody's picked up a significant amount of track limits penalties. It's not a track that is quite so punishing as Circuit of the Americas was last week, but it could still cause a bit of trouble for some runners, as there are plenty of corners to run just a little bit too wide on the exit, where you can pick up some track limits warnings. We're back up to green flag racing here. Only 4 laps left to go in this one, and pretty much all the battles seem to have fairly sorted themselves out, barring any kind of major mistake from anyone. You should see these guys go to the end of the race. You can actually see in the lower right there that blue wrench icon. That is Jeff trying to call Kareem into the pit lane, but
There's 5 laps of fuel remaining.
I'm going to assume that Kareem is not going to listen to that and is indeed going to take these tires to the last couple of laps to the end of the race. But here's Gali Moons 14 seconds back of MJ Povey, so he's made some headway on the hard tire runner ahead of him, but not quite going to be enough to catch him up. He has opened up about a 10-second gap to Quimbulas behind.
Okay, gap ahead is
It'll be another
13.9
7 seconds from Quimbulas back to Racer 04. So should be able to. Ooh, AWD Turbo Guy has gone around, facing the wrong direction there at the hairpin, although it looks like he's got his car sorted out. So no more safety cars or virtual safety cars needed. He's still running. And yeah, it looks like, unfortunately for him, that will be kind of the tail end of his day. He's going to drive it to the finish, it would appear. But definitely not the day he was hoping for. Here is MJ Povey catching the back marker of Habs Van Nick. Something about his camera angle just makes it seem like it's moving slower. He is at a fairly different camera angle using that TV offset view and is zoomed in a little bit more and angled a little bit more aggressively. Might help him find braking zones a little bit more. Although the sense of speed is not quite the same as some of the other Halo cams that we've got, and definitely not the same as the onboard camera, which I believe in this one only Habs Van Nick was running. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see any more of that, as with his internet connection to the race going down, so did his internet connection to his stream, which I guess if he lost connection to the race, wouldn't matter if his stream was up, because then we'd see nothing but like his Xbox dashboard. So here is AWD Turbo Guy diving into the pit lanes, going to slap on a set of fresh soft tires, maybe go for a quick lap at the tail end of the race. Has saved quite a bit of fuel on board, it looks like, about 0.8 of a lap. Yep, 0.77, so he's going to run in that lean mode on this pit exit. Should be able to charge up plenty of battery power as well to deploy for a real quick lap at the end. So we'll see if he's able to grab the fastest lap point for Division 2. But as it stands right now, QX Nemesis holding the fastest lap point for Division 1. Out of the race, controlled by AI at the moment, it would appear. As he is definitely falling back towards AWD Turbo Guy after having chewed his way through the field with his superior pace. Today, your non-finishers, Voki, It's Baker, and NGP Racer. Unfortunately, NGP Racer caught up in an early incident, hit side on coming out of turn 11 there, that just absolutely destroyed his his front suspension piece. Baker, we didn't get to see on screen. He was not running a stream, so we didn't get to see what was the resultant for his DNF, and Voki getting bitten by the curbs coming out of turns 2 and 3. He had spinning off and collecting in the wall pretty aggressively, so unfortunate for him to have another race that, or a race that ends in DNF there. But we're on with AWD Turbo Guy as he is turning everything up and going for a quicker lap. We'll see how he is doing against his personal best deltas as he comes across this first sector split. Or no, we won't. We will jump on to Kareem, who is actually hitting the final corner for the second to last time to start the final lap of this race. And with all the battles fairly sorted, it would seem.
This is your final lap.
Aside from Robot Habs Fan Nick has gotten passed by one of the Mercedes you see on the mini-map there. The two Renaults are running not tremendously far apart. They're running fairly close together, but Kareem has a nice, comfortable 10-second lead, 9.4 to be precise, over MJ Povey. Wasn't able to make much headway at the tail end of the race. And then Gallimum's 22 seconds back there, and Quimbulas 35 seconds back. So fairly stretched out top 4, and Racer 04 almost a full minute back. So pretty stretched out on the top 5 cars around this track here, as Kareem has quite a bit of fuel on board. Could probably go to underfuel his car a little bit more in some of these races, but hasn't had to press too hard especially with Nemesis being catching early penalties and kind of falling back through the order, unfortunately. But he just needs to, on these very worn medium tires, I would actually kind of like for him to switch over to that tire wear graphic, and maybe we'll see just how bad they're doing for him. But he's just kind of nursing it around the last few laps. You can see MJ Povey's dropped it to 7.5 seconds of a gap, although unless Kareem spins off on this last corner, should be able to make it pretty easily to the line. But here he is coming down the front straight. The checkered flag is waving and crosses the line for P1. The fireworks are off. He takes his second win of the season after taking a win in Australia. MJ Povey crossing the line P2 after his win on his season debut last week has come with another podium finish. And then Gali Mooms in P3 on those two-stop strategy, the highest runner in the two-stopper. Quimbulus working his way from the back of the grid up for a P4 finish. Next up down the road, we've got about 20-second gap or so to jump onto Racer 04. He's coming out of turn 13 there. So as another stretch, he's got his teammate of Onslaught on only 1.8 seconds back. So looks like Onslaught made a pit stop on his pit stop onto the mediums has definitely worked out quite well. Looks like though Racer 04, barring any track limits penalties, should maintain P5 over his Renault teammate. So P5 there. Onslaught does jump him on penalties there, as does Chuck SRQ. So he is your Division 2 winner in P6 overall. Looks like the Kel 89 coming across the line here will be P2 for Division 2, followed by Wall Street for the Division 2 podium. And then you've got your lap down finishers, Alejandro, and a few others were a lap down overall, so they were already completed. But your Division 1 podium, you've got Kareem on the top step, you've got Gali Mooms P3, and the Williams of MJ Povey P2. And looks like the game is saying that Quimbulus is driver of the day, which typically it gives it to the car that makes the most positions, so it would make sense. But Kareem, after winning in Australia, picking up another win here in Bahrain to start off his run of this season. Fast 6 driver after his consecutive P2s, unfortunately not able to take part in today's race. And then MJ Povey continuing his run towards the front, has a P1 and a P2 in his first 2 appearances of the season. And as far as cars a lap down, we've got Alejandro Hayes, Abs Fan Nick, Sam Beam, AWD Turbo Guy, and QX Nemesis. And then it remained the only non-finishers were Voki, It's Baker, and NGP Racer. But we are headed off to Canada next, so look for that chicanerous track to come around. Last season in Xbox Division 1, it was a wet race, so look for the chance of rain. We've yet to have rain in any of our sessions so far this season. We are running that dynamic weather though, so it could pop up at any time. It does factor in kind of the local climate, so we weren't really expecting it here in Bahrain, but Canada definitely has a chance for a wet race to take place. But I will catch you guys next week. Y'all have a good one. Peace.